pilihan yang boleh pihak ibu bapa dan you guys semua boleh tengoklah. Okey. Jadi kita mulakan dulu dengan Young Talent Development Program. So ini adalah contoh iklan yang dikeluarkan oleh pihak MARA pada bulan April tempoh hari. Okey. So jadi apa tu Young Talent Development Program? So ini adalah program tajaan yang berbentuk pinjaman boleh ubah. So kalau dulu masa zaman saya, masa saya sambung belajar tahun 2011, yang itu masih lagi tapi disebabkan saya punya program, saya masuk melalui program yang kita panggil sebagai program tindikan. Maksudnya saya memang bila balik daripada belajar, saya memang perlu untuk bekerja dengan MARA lah. So jadi saya tak perlu untuk membayar balik. Tapi bermula daripada tahun 2012, program ni dah tak ada. So dia diubah kepada pinjaman boleh ubah. Dan sekarang pun saya ada bertanya dengan kawan-kawan di MRSM yang lain, mereka berkata memang dah tak ada lagi lah program beasiswa ni, senang cerita. Dia jadi pinjaman boleh ubah. So jadi pinjaman boleh ubah ni maksudnya pihak MARA akan menaja pelajar untuk masuk dalam program yang disiapkan ataupun program yang dimohon. Tetapi selepas habis pengajian ada sejumlah bayaran yang perlu dibayarlah. Dia bergantung kepada kelulusan, maksudnya selepas habis degree tu nanti, selepas habis degree dia ada percentage dia. Kalau first class berapa persen lah. Okay, nanti saya akan tunjukkan lagi. Dan ini juga tertakluk kepada dasar yang ditetapkan. So setiap tahun mungkin dia akan, kalau dia revise dia punya dasar tu, nanti mungkin ada perubahan lah. Okay, jadi untuk Young Talent Development Program ni, dia lebih kepada persediaan untuk iaitu foundation, program foundation, dan seterusnya ijazah pertama, which is first degree. So kat sini dia ada 3 option. Universiti luar negara, universiti dalam negara, dan dia ada satu program yang panggil Ulul Albab, iaitu dia ada program tahfiz kalau tak silap saya lah. Dan saya sebenarnya saya dah kumpulkan maklumat-maklumat yang berkaitan. Nanti saya akan minta sistem aja untuk kongsikan dengan yang lain-lain lah. Apa contoh-contoh program yang ada dan apa dia punya syarat kelayakan dia. Okay, jadi untuk memohon under Young Talent Development Program ni, kita boleh, you guys boleh guna keputusan percubaan SPM. Okay. Iaitu keputusan dia minimum 3A- untuk mana-mana subjek, dan yang penting macam biasalah untuk mana-mana program yang di tajaan bawah kerajaan ni ataupun pekerjaan ni, dia mesti kredit untuk bahasa Melayu, mesti ada tu. Dan selepas tu you boleh mohon, and then kita akan adalah interview dan sebagainya, ataupun ada psychometric test apa semua tu nanti dekat link yang biasa kita nak apply tu, nanti dia akan cakap lah apa dokumen yang perlu dihantar dan sebagainya, dan kita tunggu bila SPM result keluar, dan kita kena update maklumat kita lah. So jadi dia bergantung kepada program. So kalau macam program you perlukan 7 atau 8A-, maka hopefully masa you update tu, you punya result SPM dapatlah 7 atau 8A- tu. Sebab kalau tidak, pihak MARA berhak untuk menolak you guys daripada maksudnya you tak dapat tawaran tu lah. Okay, jadi selepas tu okay. Jadi dekat sini ada beberapa, ini adalah program yang ditawarkan. Ini untuk foundation program lah. So kita ada International Baccalaureate seperti mana yang saya ambil masa tahun 2008-2010 dulu. Ini adalah program diploma daripada IBO, atau International Baccalaureate Organisation. Dia sama taraf macam A-level lah. Okay. So jadi itu adalah program yang untuk foundation program yang kedua, iaitu A-level. So A-level ni sebenarnya kesinambungan daripada program IGCSE. So siapa yang belajar IGCSE sekarang, nanti kata you masuk program A-level, dia adalah satu silibus yang sama lah. Bukan silibus sama, maksudnya dia daripada pihak yang sama, which is Cambridge International. Dan selepas tu ada dimasukkan juga untuk program-program asasi di kolej atau universiti yang ditetapkan oleh pihak MAHARA. So jadi dekat sini apabila katakanlah you dah diterima masuk untuk program tersebut, oh ya, dekat sini you ada masa you memohon tu you boleh pilih 2 program yang you berminat lah, yang you minat. Dia ada list dia tu. Okay, jadi selepas dah interview apa semua dan you lepas dan you akan diberi surat tawaran dan you agree apa semua, dan bila you nak masuk ke buat program foundation tu, program asasi tu, yuran pengajian dan allowance sara hidup you akan ditanggung oleh pihak MAHARA. Okay. Sepanjang you belajarlah sampai habis. Cumanya macam biasalah masa untuk pendaftaran tu sahaja adalah dengan yuran tu. Nanti saya pun akan berikan juga maklumat yuran tu, contoh macam pendaftaran dalam tak sampai dalam RM500 lah, lebih kurang lah. So itu yuran yang perlu diberi semasa pendaftaran, dan juga termasuklah kalau ada aktiviti di kolej ke, dan dikena bayar sendiri lah. Tapi secara asasnya yuran pengajian, makan, tempat tinggal semua disediakan. Okay. Dan ini yang macam saya cakap tadi tu, jika berjaya habis program persediaan mengikut pencapaian ditetapkan, you akan ditaja untuk sambung buat degree lah. So itu bergantung kepada program yang you pilih tu tadi. You ada luar negara, ada dalam negara. Jadi ikut program yang dipilih. Okay. Dan jadi bila habis belajar, habis ijazah, ini yang saya cakap tadi tu, pinjaman boleh ubah. You tetap kena bayar. Dah tak ada lagi beasiswa walaupun you dapat, this one saya tak berapa pasti adakah kalau dapat yang paling top tu dia free ke apa, dia saya tak pasti. Tapi kalau ikutkan daripada website MAHARA itu sendiri, kalau you contoh you habis dengan degree luar negara with first class, kata you punya program dari itu, you habis your degree with first class, you kena bayar 10% daripada total penajaan. So contoh kalau you ambil medik ke apa dan jumlah dalam let's say RM600,000, so 6% of it lah, so dalam 60,000 je. So still banyak, but compared to the total tu kan lagi inilah lagi sikit lah. Dan this one contoh kalau tanpa semester, so this one katakanlah dekat uni macam leka sikit kan, so kena ada fail paper, so kena sambung sikit. So bila ada je macam itu, minimum yang you kena bayar is 50%, dan kalau fail ataupun tak habis belajar, then you have to pay 100% lah. So ini yang dimaksudkan dengan pinjaman boleh ubah. So dia dah tak ada lagi beasiswa penuh, you boleh apply, you akan dapat penajaan dahulu tapi ada percentage yang you kena bayar. So this one kalau JPA, JPA pun kalau apa yang saya baca, kalau you balik habis degree tu, you balik bekerja dengan kerajaan ataupun jabatan awam, so you tak payah bayar. Tapi kalau sepada kerajaan ke, dia ada 50% if not mistaken, so dia ada lah. So ada dia punya percentage dia. Okay, jadi yang kedua ni, ini adalah program, salah satu program yang ada juga di MAHARA, iaitu melalui College Profesional MAHARA. So this one lebih kepada program diploma selepas SPM lah. So ini syarat kelayakan dia rendah sikit compared to yang talent development program tu tadi. So ini pun kalau you apply ni ada macam-macam program, tapi macam saya cakap dia program diploma. So untuk pendaftaran macam biasa, yuran pendaftaran you kena bayarlah, dan itu pun macam saya cakap jumlahnya biasanya tak lebih daripada RM1,000 lah, lebih kurang macam itu. Kemudian yuran pengajian semua yuran pengajian akan ditanggung oleh kerajaan, oleh pihak kerajaan. So kat situ sebenarnya nak buat program diploma tu dah kira murah lah dekat sini. Dan dekat sini juga kan saya mention about the intake tu. So kat sini untuk College Profesional MAHARA dia ada intake bermula Januari, Julai dan November. Ada 3 intake. Kalau tahun sebelum ni dia cuma buat Januari dan Julai saja. Tapi tahun ni dia bermula, dia ada tambahan intake, iaitu intake November. Okay, ini contoh, salah satu contoh diploma. So kita ada dia ada diploma in business studies lah. So ni ada dia punya minimum dia punya syarat-syarat lah. Kat sini dia lebih kepada kredit saja. Betul, satu lagi ada diploma in computer networking sebagainya lah. Okey. Okey, jadi ini saya ambil contoh iklan yang dikeluarkan pada tahun ni lah. Ini dia untuk ambilan Julai. So kat sini kalau kita tengok tadi macam similar to yang talent development program, dia punya iklan dia keluar dalam bulan Februari, Mac macam itu ataupun April lah. So antara 3 bulan tu boleh tengok-tengok lah, dan itu adalah dia punya website yang mana kita boleh tengok untuk link bagi permohonan tu. Okay. I think itu saja. Nanti pasal maklumat detail tu apa semua saya ada sharekan dengan Sis Najwa. Nanti mungkin Sis Najwa boleh kongsikan lah dengan pihak you guys semua. Okay, I think that's all from me about Mara.
Right, thank you so much, Sir Hazwan. So basically, boleh tak akak buka ruang untuk you guys tanya Sir Hazwan ataupun Sir Akhtar terus kalau you guys nak tanya lah. So one of the questions given by one of our audience, Marmau, salam teacher, memandangkan pelajar KMSS tidak mengambil SPM, adakah boleh memohon pinjaman pemboleh ubah MARA, JPA dan sebagainya?
Okay. To answer to that, I think kita ada one student ya, yang apa nama tu, dia ambil IGCSE menggunakan result trial IGCSE daripada kita, dan of course menggunakan dia punya result IGCSE yang betul. Dia ada apply di College Mara Banting. Kan?
Yes, dia apply ke College Mara Banting, tapi dia bukan scholarship lah, dia biaya sendiri. So in terms of you can get a places dekat local colleges dengan university. Kalau College Mara Banting tu, the two brothers, seorang ambil IB, seorang lagi ambil A-level. Tapi dia sendiri punya pembiayaan. And then the brother went on to do computer science dekat UKM. After A-levels tu dia boleh apply ke UKM lah. So mendapat tempat dekat local universities ni tak senang tapi tak susah jugalah. It's getting easier sebab banyak local university yang offer students yang tak ambil SPM, yang ambil IGCSE instead untuk apply through their foundation ataupun A-level punya results. Tapi all the scholarships that mostly yang kita kenal ni, yang JPA, MARA, the two biggest bodies yang provide scholarships ni, they're not eligible for that. Yang tu memang kena ambil SPM juga. Jadi kalau tak ambil SPM, dia memang very limited options lah untuk dapat scholarship. From IGCSE itself, kalau there is opportunity, many private colleges and private universities like Taylor, Curtin, semua tu, Asia Pacific, they offer scholarships right from foundation level, provided that you get good results for IGCSE. So these are not like the major bodies lah. This is based on university punya basis. Kena tengok college by college. And then if you do well for the foundation, then again they will have another, you can apply for another scholarship for your degree at that university lah. Tapi memang tak boleh apply untuk JPA dan MARAS and any of these like PNB semua, sebab dia memang perlukan SPM. Tapi there are other bodies like other scholarship awarding bodies like certain insurance companies kan, Great Eastern ke Shell ke, you can try to apply to them, tapi itu pun lepas A-level lah, selalunya lepas ke university, that means at the degree punya level sahaja, then you can apply for those, tapi very limited. So if the goal is basically to get some kind of scholarship, then sepatutnya the way forward is SPM lah. Of course the discussion will be then why, kenapa KMSS tak bagi tak offer SPM, itu separate discussion lah. Yang tu macam kenapa kita tukar daripada IGCSE ke SPM tu is a different discussion. Tapi if the students want to take, and because we Sister Najwa did a survey with our students and many of them want to do SPM after IGCSE, and in fact many of our previous students also decided to do SPM after IGCSE because they realized this limited opportunity. And so this talk will be more useful for them, specifically for applying JPA, MARA punya scholarships. But also now in my session that I will be talking about will be more general about how to just apply for scholarships lah in general in the interview process and things like that. So hopefully that answers the question lah.
Alright, thank you so much, Sir Akhtar. So I do agree, untuk kalau for those students yang ambil IGCSE sahaja, you guys tak boleh apply untuk scholarship JPA and MARA, tapi nanti kalau dah habis foundation ataupun dah buat diploma dekat certain center ataupun college or university, Then nanti you guys,
Again. Is it supposed to be a jar?
okay. So kat mana lagi tadi? Okay, nanti after dah habis your foundation A-level nanti, kalau dah nak pursue your study degree local university ke ataupun overseas, you guys boleh apply lah scholarship tu. Kiranya JPA boleh kiranya dia offer juga untuk local uni. So you guys kena alert sahaja dengan iklan-iklan scholarship. Keep on checking on Google website ataupun kadang-kadang macam dekat UIA, because I was studying in UIA, diorang akan keep on posting kalau zaman dulu dia tampal dekat papan kan, dia tak macam sekarang, they have their own IG page and also Facebook page. Dia akan update segala scholarship semua benda tu, and then you guys kena alert je lah. Kira sentiasa kena check dengan jangan check dengan lecturer. Kadang-kadang lecturer tak ambil tahu pun pasal benda ni. So you kena alert untuk pergi ke certain office yang orang kata finance, bukan finance unit tapi ada unit-unit yang tertentu. Nanti you guys kena godek-godek lah masuk uni nanti. You have to be very independent and kena selalu jalan-jalan, tengok board-board kat sekeliling yang you ada tu. Yang penting jangan memerat kat bilik selalu, ya. Okay, so ada lagi tak soalan so far? Okay, kalau tak ada, akak terus bagi ruang untuk Seata present .
So, okay, baik, saya present. Let me just share the screen. Okay, can you see the slides?
Yes.
Sekejap, dia freeze sekejap. I cannot navigate the slides ni. Okay, alright. I won't do full screen because if I do full screen, I don't know how to navigate. I don't know how to see what's going on in the slide. So I'm just going to leave it like this, as long as you can see. So Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Alhamdulillahirabbil alamin wassalatu wassalamu ala asyrafil anbiya'i wal mursalin wa ala alihi washabbihi ajma'in. So welcome students and parents. Many of you are already familiar with the process from your own experience and from friends and colleagues, maybe children yang mungkin kawan-kawan lain yang taking SPM dan dah apply dan sebagainya. And from what Sir Hazwan said just now, so I'm just going to give you a little bit more lah pasal JPA and also more broadly about interviews. But again, just let me repeat balik apa yang saya sebut tadi. IGCSE ni memang limited lah options dia, and that's why daripada the first year kita mula IGCSE punya program ni, students yang memang kita berharap untuk stay dekat sekolah tapi they decide to leave when they go to Form 4 or Form 5 because they want to do SPM, walaupun berat hati nak lepaskan tapi kami lepaskan juga because we feel that that's the best option lah for them untuk ambil SPM dan kemudian apply to scholarship. Tapi of course there's now the other option that you can finish if you want the environment of the school, then you can kind of like finish IGCSE first and after that do SPM yourself lah, kiranya register any private school yang berdekatan, then you can either go to school there ataupun register as private candidate and study yourself and then just go for the exam sahaja. Tapi kalau nak dapat scholarship ni, generally speaking dia memang lepas SPM lah. I think about 2 or 3 years ago, UPU dah buka peluang untuk budak-budak yang ambil A-levels untuk apply through UPU. Sebelum ni hanya SPM saja kan. So now they allow students who take, that means after pre-U, after A-levels, you can apply through UPU to apply to public universities. Tapi still syarat dia adalah kena ada SPM juga. Sebelum tu still kena SPM. Kalau dia tak ada SPM, dia tak boleh apply through UPU tu. This may change in the coming years sebab kita ada semakin ramai budak-budak MRSM especially yang ada dual program tu yang berhenti dekat level IGCSE and they leave the school. It might change, but nampaknya sekarang ni in terms of opportunities still the way yang paling banyak pintu-pintu akan terbuka adalah SPM lah. Okay, so zaman kita orang lagilah memang this IGCSE semua macam unheard of, very sikit je orang yang ambil, tapi now sebab semakin ramai parents yang prefer untuk hantar anak ke private schools, mainly for the school punya environment. Jadi mungkin akan ada perubahan lah dari segi education system, tapi maybe not in the near future lah. So if you want to access all of these scholarships semua tu, the best thing that you can do is sit for SPM after IGCSE nanti. Okay, so first of all, to qualify for the scholarship is you need to study hard and get excellent results. Yang ni memang tak ada. If you don't get excellent results, then there's no point talking about scholarship pun lah, because that's the first criteria yang mereka akan tengok. Dia akan, kalau the most expensive punya scholarship sekarang yang UK dengan US punya scholarship, dan itu memang dia dah senaraikan which students can apply for it. For JPA lah, for JPA memang dia macam like special kijang emas punya scholarship. Not kijang emas is bank negara punya lah, tapi dia macam the same level tu. Dia memang dah senaraikan about 200 candidates yang best students for that particular year sahaja boleh apply ke UK dan ke US. Student lain semua tak boleh. Dia kena apply program-program yang selain daripada UK dan US punya. So you have to do very well and you have to get the 9A star lah, because if you don't get 9A star, dia sama masalah dengan IGCSE sekarang juga in the last few years. Semakin ramai student yang semakin cemerlang. And so the competition is very, very high. So you have to get very excellent results. But then there is room for other, if you want to apply to other places, like for example, there is JKPJ punya program, the Jepun, Korea, Prancis, and I can't remember, Germany punya program. Yang tu a little bit relax sikit dia punya syarat. So for example, you can apply if you have 5A stars and then 3A minus, tapi dia still tetap kena A jugalah, okay? A plus dengan A minus, that is for SPM kan. So you have to study hard and you have to get excellent results, because if you don't get the excellent results, you're not going to get any scholarship, and then you want to menangis after that pun no point, because your tears cannot transform into the A on the paper. Okay, so you want to menangis means menangis siap-siap before the exam, alright? And so make sure you be, and of course for you to do well, you have to be very, very disciplined lah. Okay, make sure you have a schedule that you have to follow. And you know, for the students in the school, I've already given this talk at the beginning from daripada awal lagi, and I remind you from time to time, make sure you get good sleep, make sure you eat proper food. Basically, you're disciplined, okay? And then on top of that, build a portfolio of extracurricular activities lah. So whatever pertandingan yang you masuk ke, and kalau ada opportunity untuk pertandingan, untuk masuk pertandingan, dan masuklah yang you minat, then document and keep all of the certificates together. Nowadays everything is semua borang online, dia tak ada borang yang physical macam zaman dulu memang kena tulis borang physical tu. Tapi sekarang semua online, even your pencapaian kurikulum semua online. This year, because all the interviews were done online juga, selalunya when you go for interview in real life, face to face, you will take your file yang you simpan semua sertifikat ni, and then you just leave it on the table. For JPA, the interview selalunya in group lah, dia tak buat one-to-one punya interview. And then while the interviewers are listening to your discussion with your fellow interviewees, your other people applying for the scholarship, they will browse through your file to see that macam kiranya you tak tipu lah sijil-sijil yang you kata you masuk acara lompat jauh berapa kilometer, semua tu dia akan check lah, okay? Tapi nowadays, because it's online, at least for the last 2 years ni, dia tak check pun sebenarnya your certificate, because there's no opportunity for them to check. Unless, I don't know lah, they have a system in the centralized system where they can type your IC and check and see whether you tipu ataupun tak. So the one that will determine whether they select you or not amongst the candidates of semua yang cemerlang ni is the interview tu, okay? So before that, these are some of some useful websites that you can go to. So beasiswamalaysia.com is very useful because it contains all of the websites, all of the scholarships yang you can apply for, government, non-government, insurance company, Shell, Great Eastern, semua tu ada. And so for IGCSE candidates especially, it's worth looking at these websites, because there are certain non-private companies which will sponsor you if you do well for IGCSE. Very limited, but they are there. And then of course the Facebook page Hala Tuju Pendidikan Selepas SPM lah. So yang tu they even have specific program that you can join for a fee. You pay a fee, and the counselors in there will guide you step by step how to apply to certain places and for certain subjects. Okay. Generally speaking, you should read a lot. So apart from the subject that you tengah study ni, you should also broaden your horizons and be in the know about issues yang sedang berlaku dalam dunia. Okay, because those will be the favorite interview punya topics. So learn about apa-apa benda yang going on currently lah, so macam like currently fake news ke, misinformation ke, so all of those things tak payah tahu dalam mendalam pun, tapi at least you know that those things are there and a little bit about them. Okay. And then from now you can learn by having discussions with your friends, because nanti bila you pergi interview tu, you will be discussing with people yang you tak pernah jumpa. They will all be interviewees who are also going to who are also applying for the scholarship. So if you like very malu because you don't want to cakap, you don't kenal the person, then it's not very good lah. So daripada sekarang juga, in your classes, when your teacher tanya soalan ke, they ask for opinions ke, you discuss with your friends and share opinions about the things which are going on, about issues, so that you can develop your confidence. Okay. And then of course find out what the terms are lah for the, macam Sir Hazwan mentioned tadi, JPA dengan MARA ni very similar. Of course most of you kalau dah Melayu, then you can apply to both lah, MARA or JPA. Macam Sir dulu tak boleh apply untuk MARA because Sir not considered Bumi Putra. It became an issue sebenarnya waktu Sir apply tu. Yang isu yang pahit, if I feel happy I'll tell you about it, otherwise I won't tell you about it, because I was not considered to be Melayu waktu Sir apply JPA. Itu yang Sir memang bukan Melayu pun, Sir Muslim je, tapi dia timbul isu lah, walaupun Sir punya result tu cemerlang gemilang terbilang, tapi still jadi isu juga. Okay. So contohnya macam Sir Hazwan cakap tadi, nowadays dia jarang bagi beasiswa yang absolute because they want ramai yang dia bagi, lepas tu tak balik. So what they do is they give yang boleh ubah. If you work for the government, then it becomes a full scholarship. If you work with GLC, I think you pay 50%. If you work with something else, is 25%. And then if you go to swasta altogether, you pay back the full scholarship. So it depends what your choices are lah. And then dia ada time frame jugalah. Contohnya kalau after looking for a job in the government for 2 years tak dapat, then probably they may say that, you know what, you did try, then it's okay, we will maybe still give you the you work for a GLC, we'll still kind of like consider that you're working for the government, contohnya. Okay. And they all have their syarat khas. Syarat umum dia kena warga negara Malaysia, kena ambil SPM itu. And syarat khas dia bergantunglah kepada which scholarship that you're doing. So macam saya sebut tadi, kalau yang US, UK punya, you tengok je kalau nama you tak dalam senarai itu, you didn't get all the A stars or the A pluses, then don't have to bother. Tapi the others tu macam you tengoklah, macam like Jepun, Korea, Perancis dengan Jerman punya, depending on the course that you want to do. Mungkin if you want to do engineering, they expect you to get A star for Maths and Physics contohnya. Okay. And then also there's also this opportunity to convert if you do well for the exams at university. Okay. Then there are other scholarships juga. If you're very very cemerlang, then bodies like Bank Negara may award you a scholarship. I don't know whether they still award them or not, but certainly until a few years ago they were awarding this Kijang Emas kind of scholarship. Yang tu memang full scholarship. You can do whatever you want with the money. Belajar, I think kat mana-mana pun. So macam probably the most famous recipient of Kijang Emas punya scholarship is Amalina Cik Bakri lah. Kalau kamu semua kenal Dr. Cik Amalina tu. She was in my batch. In fact, we went to university together pun. I under JPA and she got the Kijang Emas punya scholarship. So dia daripada A-level lagi dia dah buat dekat UK. And then after that she went on to Edinburgh University and we went to university together. I did my A-levels here lah in College Yayasan UEM dekat Lembah Beringin, and then baru I went to the UK, tapi we entered the university together. And then after that things happened and we kind of like went our own ways lah. She's now basically training to be a gynecologist and obstetrician dekat London kan. Dia quite artis jugalah sekarang dengan all dia punya post dekat Twitter kan. Right. So during the interview, this is where you will stand out. This is where they will be able to select you, because semua yang dalam interview tu semua yang cemerlang. So the interview is when they will select who they think will be deserving of the scholarship. So as I mentioned tadi, apart from knowing general issues that is affecting the global world, okay, like fake news, climate change, those kind of things, you also should know about the specific country that you're applying to. So if you're applying to New Zealand, for example, so MARA scholarships, there are some to New Zealand and sebagainya, then you should know a little bit about the country, and you should also know a little bit about the course that you're applying for. So you boleh pilih kan kursus apa you nak apply. So you should know lah about the course yang you pilih. The interviewers are very diverse. Some of them are very kind and they don't want you. They know that it's a nerve-wracking experience sebab kamu dalam tu kamu risau kan, takut untuk bercakap. So they try to calm you down by making jokes and things like that. Some of them are a bit cruel. They ask you very difficult questions. Like one of my friends, anak dia baru habis SPM and she applied for the JPA MARA. The merger JPA MARA ni is yang dia JPA scholarship tapi khusus untuk pelajar Bumi Putra sahaja. And she got New Zealand, and the interviewer asked her about New Zealand's foreign policy. So I think that is quite cruel lah sebab if you ask about who is the Prime Minister, you should know if you're applying to New Zealand, you should know that the Prime Minister is Jacinda Ardern. You should know that the New Zealand ada dua island yang utama, North Island dengan South Island. You should know those basic stuff, the geography, the people dan sebagainya. Tapi policy tu susah sikit lah. Maybe interview tu just nak tengok macam mana you boleh jawab sebenarnya, not really whether it's a right or wrong answer. Okay. Another interviewer yang lebih apa kita kata comel sikit, dia bagi this student was applying to Japan. So ni contoh betul daripada interview So the interviewer tanya, if you were Doraemon, if you could choose between Doraemon, Sailor Moon and Ultraman, which one you will choose? Okay. And based on those choice, based on which one you chose, try to relate it with what you will be in the future. How does your choice affect your thoughts and your vision for the future? Okay, so dia ada sebab dia punya soalan dalam skema interviewer tu adalah kena tanya soalan pasal masa depan. Contohnya, so this interviewer dia pandai-pandai pergi tukar soalan tu. I mean, she still had the gist which is asking about the future. Tapi dia nak student rasa relax sikit and more relatable dengan tak nervous sangat, dia masuklah karakter-karakter Doraemon, Sailor Moon dengan Ultraman ni. So that's the other thing. You should think about your future and how you can contribute when you study for the when you study that particular field tu. They want to see whether you are the kind yang you punya pemikiran adalah nak buat duit semata-mata sahaja ataupun you nak jadi Ultraman yang menyelamatkan bandar Tokyo yang dimusnahkan 100 kali oleh berbeza raksasa yang lain-lain tu. Okay, so they want to see what kind of mentality you have, so they can decide from there whether you are a person worth giving the scholarship or not lah. Tapi jangan goreng macam I'm going to save the world from climate change, semua tu macam over sangat. They know that you tipu jugalah. So try to be realistic, and also as I mentioned tadi, don't be too quiet and don't talk too much juga. So you must demonstrate intellectual humility. Kalau kamu tak tahu something, don't make it up. So for example, if the interviewer is asking you about foreign policy of New Zealand, if you really don't know, it's better for you to just say don't know rather than you make something up, because that won't look nice. And even if you are talking about the interview just selalunya in group, don't over dominate the session tu sampai orang lain tak ada masa untuk suarakan mereka punya pendapat. Okay, so dengar and don't only think of what you want to say. Interviewers will like people who know that this candidate is paying attention to what the other candidates are saying. That means this person is giving an opinion, and then you actually listen to the opinion, and then so you agree ataupun you disagree and you say why, rather than you waiting for that person to finish so you can say what you want to say. So kita ada kesenyambungan langsung, and it shows that you actually not interested and you don't respect other people's opinions kan. So these things matter. They are small things, but this is where they will choose you they will see these things and they akan buat pemilihan lah based on that. Because otherwise in terms of academic, semua yang apply tu sama-sama cemerlang. So this is where they will choose yang terbaik sekali. Okay.
Can I interrupt sekejap?
Yes.
I nak tanya dekat Akta and also Azwan, macam JPA and also MARA, dia conduct macam how many stages of interview? Kalau macam saya ada dengar kadang-kadang ada yang personal interview, kadang ada dalam group interview. Macam selain daripada dua tu, ada lagi tak macam any other type of interview? Maybe MARA lain, JPA lain?
Okay, for JPA, the one I did dulu is group interview. Yang recently I found out from my friend yang daughter applied for JPA pun group interview juga. There's only one interview. Cuma there are opportunities for you to appeal if you don't get the first time. So and currently dia dah buka third appeal pun. So the second appeal and third appeal, and usually bila you nak appeal, you appeal dengan writing an essay. So this girl got it on second appeal. So she did very well for SPM. I think mostly A pluses, but one A minus or something like that. So she didn't get it the first time, and then she appealed by writing an essay. So the essay pun akan take into consideration lah macam mana you jawab dia punya soalan tu. I'm not sure about Mara. Mara was macam mana, Hazwan?
Kalau dengan Mara tu macam saya, dia ada dua sebenarnya. Dia interview yang personal, sebab tu dia akan masukkan kita dalam grup lah. Dan saya pun dapat maklumat yang kalau baru-baru ni dia dah mula buat group interview yang mana dia akan bagi task dan dia akan bagi kita dalam like 15-10 minit macam itu untuk discuss, dan kita kena present dekat orang kita nak interview tu lah, yang kita kena interview tu. Jadi kat situ dia nak first nak tengok kita macam mana. Lepas tu yang kedua tu macam kita punya interaction dengan orang-orang yang lain lah. Dia macam saya cakap tadi tu, mesti ada intelligent humility tu. Kadang-kadang kalau kita macam tunjuk macam pandai sangat, orang pun macam tak suka. Jadi kat situ dari segi nak bekerjasama tu kita tak nampak lah. Dan satu lagi nak touch on the point yang Masa Atta kata pasal jangan yes, ada benda kita tak tahu, dan it is good for us to say that we don't know. Tetapi kita kena tambah sedikit yang mana maybe you can say I will look into it. Okay, you raise a good point for example lah, sebab kadang-kadang dia nak tengok adakah kita tak tahu ni, kita nak biarkan diri kita tak tahu. Sebab kadang ni sebab sekarang ni information dah di hujung jari kan. So kalau kita tak tahu, so we should make an effort to know. So itu just nak touch on the point yang kata kalau kita tak tahu itulah. Betul, kita perlu cakap kita tak tahu, tetapi kita kena ada make an effort untuk tahu selepas-lepas lah.
And how did you guys balance your role masa tengah interview tu kan? Rasa macam, mesti ada rasa macam nak jawab sangat-sangat kadang-kadang tu. Kadang-kadang rasa tak tahu tapi nak buat-buat lah tahu. Macam mana you guys control yourself? And ada students yang macam maybe dia ada student maybe yang perform academic tapi in terms of personality tu rasa macam a bit reserved, quiet. Okay, so macam mana untuk orang kata push this kind of students untuk ace in interview?
Sebab tu lah, that's the point that I was trying to make just now, that dia tak boleh tiba-tiba you never talk in your life and then always pemalu in class, and suddenly waktu interview tu you think you can talk to, that itu memang tak logik lah. Sebab tu you kena train from now itself. You have to learn to give opinions or at least respond to what the teachers are saying. And you can start by, if you katakan you malu to give your opinion verbally, then you can start by writing your opinions down, kan? Practice like that slowly. And then during the interview tu itself, tak sure lah macam mana dia punya nak control, katakan somebody saying something and you really don't agree with it, kan? I think I struggled with that until today, so I'm not sure how I did it during the interview many years ago. Tapi selalunya most of the candidates are jenis pemalu pun. Most of them are the kind yang not very boisterous, bukan jenis yang suka bercakap banyak pun, and dia dah berani keluarkan idea-idea yang terlalu provokatif. So I think it won't be too bad. Tapi if you really want to say something, I suppose you can kind of like say it lah, just say macam I think you raise a good point ke, tapi I think there's another side you need to consider, for example. And if you are jenis pemalu, memang you have to practice lah. You have to say something. So I remember during my interview, there were 2 or 3 candidates yang memang the whole interview tu dia tak cakap apa-apa, and dia hanya anggur dengan dia kata yes, I agree, I don't agree tu je. So macam mana interviewer nak select kan orang macam ni? Maybe they memang jenis betul-betul intellectual humility is good, tapi during interview tu you must speak something lah, you must say something, even if you agree sahaja pun, state why you agree. Okay, Azwan?
Yalah, saya setujulah, betul apa yang dikatakan tu. Sebab tapi itu pun macam going back to the interview tu tadi, dia ikut nasib lah. Because during my time I've got with, there are 2 or 3 students not mistaken yang memang outspoken lah. Masa tu ada dalam 6 orang dalam tu. Jadi memang dia 3 orang tu macam memang memang macam berdebat lah dalam tu kan. So mungkin dia bergantung pada nasib jugalah. Kadang-kadang betul macam saya cakap, kita dapat orang yang macam kena senyap je, jadi kita pula rasa macam I have to because this is the chance kan. It's all about taking the opportunity lah. Tapi kalau kita tak kita kalau termasuk dalam grup yang tadi tu yang bising sangat tu, mesti kita kena pandai tunjukkan yang kita ni lain, maksudnya how we are different than this loud people ni lah, dengan cerita macam itu. So kat situ pun itu dah merupakan satu nilai tambah yang lain daripada itu, mungkin tu yang menyebabkan kita dipilih kan. Contoh macam itulah.
Okay, thank you for inputs. Sakta boleh sambung. Your
Okay, alright now. So this is just basically what I went through when I was applying for the scholarship. So of course I studied hard and I participate in many things in school, basically almost every single competition. I don't even know how I managed to survive. When I think about it, I think I should have died by that time, but I managed to survive. So I think you can do it. You can like participate in everything and apply and study hard. And I took 14 subjects, so I ambil 14 subjects. Tapi I will never advise anybody to take that many subjects ever again, because you should try to live a balanced life lah. I was not very sporty in school. I didn't participate in a lot of sports. I think students should have a bit more of a balanced life. So you kind of like do a bit of sport, do a bit of whatever you enjoy and things like that. Tapi big difference lah, zaman saya dengan zaman kamu is big difference, because we were just entering into the era of gadget and stuff like that. So distraction was not so much. Your zaman now, you can basically be overwhelmed with the gadget kan. So that's a struggle for you lah, okay? And then I created a portfolio, a whole kind of like file and almost like a scrapbook, okay, of all my certificates. I didn't get it the first time, and I gave up basically because I was so annoyed I didn't get it the first time. I was like, why didn't I get it the first time? Look at my results, so excellent. How can I not get it the first time? And the issue was because of my status as of Bumi Putra ni sebenarnya. Saya dapat my results was 13A, 13A1 and 1A2. Zaman tu it was the A1, A2 punya results, and my A2 was for Bahasa Melayu. And I think that was the reason I didn't get the first time, because my status was not very clear whether I was Bumi Putra or not. I mean, people can say that this is meritocracy. We know that it's not meritocracy, it's all false. Memang the first kita kata priority is given to memang pelajar yang betul-betul Bumi Putra lah, because saya punya bapa, my father is Hindu convert into Muslim, he's not Malay. So that is the reason there was a problem with my status too. I gave up, but my mother refused to give up. My mother actually went up all the way to the Menteri Pendidikan and kind of like insisted to see him and say that if my son doesn't deserve to get it, then nobody deserves to get the scholarship. So of course she said it nicely, but she begged the minister lah to kind of like, please give him an opportunity, at least an opportunity to go for the interview, at least to dapat interview tu. You want to say something, Najwa?
I rasa nak cakap macam ni, patutnya kena jemput Mak Akta sekali kan, tu kat tepi, ada tak?
Sementara sebab saya waktu kat sekolah pun, my mother didn't take any chances lah sebenarnya. She wanted me, because dia bukan confirm that I will get the scholarship pun, so she also told me to apply for matrikulasi. And so memang I got matrikulasi. So before when I applied for the GPA the first time, I didn't get it. I went to matrikulasi first. So I went to matrikulasi Kuala Pilah, and I was there for 1 month. And I met some friends, which I am friends with them until today sebenarnya. And then my mother, she went to see the minister. Then I got the second time lah. So my interview experience was basically we went to the interview center. I can't remember where it was now. It's too long ago. First of all of us had to write an essay. So bila masuk dalam the interview punya, they took us to a lecture hall, and we all had to write an essay. And the essay was basically something about if let's say you were studying already at that country that you applied for. I applied for UK, and then let's say tiba-tiba the government feels that the government is suffering some kind of economic downturn and cannot afford to sponsor you anymore, because international student punya fee memang sangat mahal. It's very expensive compared to local student punya fee, mana-mana tempat dalam dunia pun. So if let's say the government suddenly decides to not sponsor you and say that you have to come back, but they will sponsor you locally, what will your decision be? So they just wanted to see how you will respond to the essay. Either you will basically say that I will use my own money and sambung kat sana ke, ataupun I will stop the scholarship altogether ke, ataupun I will appeal ke, they just want to see what you want to write. So it took us about I think 20 minutes to 30 minutes to write the essay, and then lepas tu baru was the interview lah, group interview tu. There will be 1 or 2 or 3 people yang memang more chatty than other people, and then the rest of them will be a bit quiet. I hope I was not the most chatty one, but I was kind of in between kot. And then just before I left the session tu, again this issue Bumiputra ni came out. Sebab tu saya macam very anti sikit dengan orang yang suruh bawa kisah Bumiputra hak istimewa orang Melayu ni, because everybody left the room already. So the 2 interviewers actually stopped me and said that kami nak tanya sebenarnya are you Bumiputra ataupun tak. And so I said to them, like based on the based on what is known customarily, that orang yang hidup dengan cara orang Melayu are usually considered Bumiputra regardless of whether they are Melayu or not. And so the examiner was like, the interview was like, a little bit ambivalent about what I said. So I tanya balik interviewer tu, if I'm not Bumiputra, then am I non-Bumiputra? I asked the interviewer back. And so she was like, oh tak apa, kita just tanya sahaja. Alhamdulillah, anyway, I got the scholarship after the second appeal tu. Alhamdulillah. But I didn't take chances lah. Kiranya, I still went to matriculasi, and if I hadn't got the scholarship, I would have continued in matriculasi and applied somewhere locally. So you should have a backup plan. If you, let's say, whether if you're taking SPM, then you can apply for all of these scholarships. If you're not taking SPM, then have a backup plan about which universities you want to apply to. What is the cost? Can your parents afford to kind of like sponsor you all the way, or you have to take a loan or something like that. And the other thing about interview I wanted to say is, if you apply to the non-government punya interviews, usually yang ada special bodies, I think yang macam Shell, Astro, I think their interviews are usually one-to-one, one person to one person, because tak ramai yang dia ambil untuk interview sekali. So you have to be kita kata ready to be interviewed in a group and also in person lah. I think in group tu dia less nerve-wracking sikit sebab dia ada orang lain sekali. Kalau dia one person tu dia a little bit more menakutkan lah. Okay. But don't worry too much, inshallah will be fine, and kind of like do all the psychological things that you can do to calm yourself down, and inshallah will be fine. And most important of all is basically don't forget to make dua to Allah that you get what is best for you, not what you want necessarily, because sometimes the two don't go in hand kan. Kadang-kadang kita betul-betul nak pergi UK, tapi Allah feels that going to UK may not be a good decision for you, so Allah gives you something else. So don't be disappointed with that. So in your dua, make a dua that Allah gives you yang terbaik untuk diri kamu. Sebab kadang-kadang kalau kita betul-betul insist on something and Allah gives us that, it may be bad for us in the end of the day kan. So like for me, my going to UK tu, probably the best thing that came out of it was not so much the degree in medicine that I got, but was the opportunity that I had to study Arabic there, and also with some of the scholars there, which is basically the beginning of the journey for my completion of my master's in Islamic studies recently lah. So I think that was the most useful thing for me there. And when you do get a scholarship, so those are the things that you can seek out for as well lah. Bukan just macam Sister Najwa cakap tadi, you don't just jangan duduk dalam bilik terperap sahaja. Take the opportunity to go out and experience other things, especially if you go overseas lah, because ada penyakit sikit orang-orang budak-budak Malaysia ni, especially if they go to a place yang ramai student Malaysia, they tend to only stick with the Malaysian students. They don't want to kind of like mingle at all. And for me, that one is membazir duit hantar budak tu pergi luar negara. Because dia memang dia tak nak berinteraksi dengan student lain, dia tak nak belajar. Nobody's asking you to go out and have with them to the park and stuff. Nobody's asking you to do that, but at least you have some kind of interaction. So waktu first year when I went to Edinburgh, I think I've told some of this story to some of you already. I lived with in a 12-person flat, and with 11 other mak saleh, and they were all young, very young. They're usually younger than you lah by 2 or 3 years. So memang and saya punya hostel tu dia terletak dekat satu jalan yang saya namakan jalan tu Lorong Neraka. Dia nama Lorong Neraka sebab that jalan was full of pubs and clubs. So on Friday dengan Saturday night, dia memang bising dengan all the mabuk people shouting profanities from one end of the jalan to the other end. And sometimes when I wake up, when I go to toilet, I can see my friend lying down in the toilet and vomiting the whole night. That is like a terrible experience, but it's an experience nonetheless, which helps you to character building lah. You learn to live with whatever you have kan. And then of course there are other Malaysian friends and other universities yang memang takkan keluar mingle dengan siapa-siapa, dengan rakyat Malaysia sahaja, they can still excel at university and do well. Tapi bila balik tu macam I have seen people yang staying in UK for 4 or 5 years, tapi bila balik cannot speak English. Kita ni punya level English dia sama dengan sebelum dia pergi. Jadi satu kerugian yang besar lah, because patutnya if you really go to UK and you come back, you should be more conversant in English. Not to be perfect grammar, but you should be more conversant kan. So take this opportunity. Ada yang sampai bila solat raya pun dia buat solat raya untuk rakyat Malaysia sahaja. Dia tak nak pergi solat raya dekat masjid. This happened when I was studying in Edinburgh. Rakyat Malaysia dia ada buat solat raya dia sewa satu surau dekat one of the campuses, and dia buat solat raya di that campus lah. Tujuannya dia kata sebab lepas tu nak buat open house. I think that's fine. Tapi I think solat raya is the time when you should mingle with all the other different people from different cultures kan. I mean that's my view lah. I feel that rugi kalau kita just stick to our own kind sahaja, then you don't learn a lot from the experience overseas if you get the opportunity to go overseas lah. The last word from me is that let's say you don't get opportunity to go overseas pun, there is always an opportunity to get a scholarship through your universities to do a postgraduate degree. So most universities in our country, they offer scholarships to students to pursue their masters or PhD, and the university will support you lah. So yang tu memang tak semesti tak, SPM is not part of the story. So if you want to do your postgraduate degree, and that's usually easier juga sebenarnya because you are more mature, you're kind of like a bit more independent, you know how to handle things. So don't despair. If you really want, inshallah there will be opportunity. If not after SPM, or if not in your first degree, then later in your postgraduate degree, you can apply and inshallah you will get it. Okay, that's all that I want to share. Thank you for listening to my nasihat and also my baby land and friends as well.
Thank you so much, Sir Akhtar. So from bittersweet experience dengan tengok orang mabuknya muntah-muntah. Kalau macam Sir Hazwan tak ada nak share apa-apa? Are you batchmates Khairul Amin ke? Khairul Amin NZ kan? New Zealand kan? Bukan ni?
Oh, entah saya tak tahu. Is it from Auckland or itulah apa nama tu, dari segi saya, daripada saya punya part macam I'm a little bit lucky lah because I'm from MRSM, so bila dah masuk dalam MRSM system tu jadi kita dah familiar dan kebiasaannya the chances tu adalah tinggi. Tapi the reason I entered I joined this program pun yang that allows me to go to New Zealand ni disebabkan oleh masa tengok program-program, sebab saya dapat program asasi untuk program apa nama tu matrikulasi dekat Changlun kalau tak silap saya. Tapi semua tu 1 tahun, dan saya nampak program tu 2 tahun. So that's why I choose it lah sebenarnya. Bukan sebab pergi luar negara, but because of the mentality saya pada masa tu lagi panjang dia punya program preparation dia lagi bagus lah. Masa tak adalah kata macam kena pressure sangat ke apalah. So that one is a wrong thinking lah sebenarnya. sebab different program dia ada label dia kan. So sebenarnya IB ni program yang susah juga. Saya setuju lah dengan apa yang saya cakap, bila dekat luar negara tu, bila ada opportunity untuk keluar negara, kita buka mata kita untuk tengok satu, kalau kita daripada kita dari Malaysia dan kita keluar, kita tengok Malaysia daripada kacamata orang luar macam mana. So kita boleh nampak benda tu. So pengalaman saya dekat New Zealand tu itulah, maksudnya kita duduk kat negara yang bukan negara Islam, maksudnya tak ramai orang Malaysia lah kat situ. Pada masa saya tahun 2011 2012 tak berapa ramai lagi. So jadi memang terasa asing lah senang cerita. Dan dari segi pergaulan tu betul kita akan ada rasa tendensi nak stick dengan orang-orang Malaysia sebab kita kenal kan, sebab kita tahu dia orang Malaysia, dia cakap bahasa yang sama dengan kita, so senang untuk kita berkomunikasi, dan ada apa-apa masalah kita ada geng lah senang cerita kan. Tapi kita tak boleh layankan sangat perasaan tu, sebab nanti kita akan terkongkong dengan mentaliti rakyat Malaysia saja. So kita tak nampak apa benda yang orang-orang lain buat yang sebenarnya lagi bagus, ataupun yang boleh mengubah diri kita untuk jadi lebih baiklah. Dan apa lagi Dan kita kat sana kena juga explore. So saya nak kata saya punya pengalaman dekat New Zealand tak berapa nak ni sangat lah, tak berapa kata nak indah sangat, nak kata teruk sangat pun tak. Jadi kadang ada masa first year tu memang saya isolate betul-betul. Dengan orang Malaysia pun tak, dengan orang New Zealand pun tak. So memang I am really on my own lah. But at that time it allows me to become independent lah, because before this dengan mak bapak, so mak bapak tolong banyak benda kan. Jadi bila orang negara tu kita dah seorang-seorang, so nak buat apa pun memang kena buat sendiri. So kat situ allows me to ada knowledge macam mana saya nak cari maklumat. So kat situlah benda-benda yang saya belajar sendiri dan saya bawa balik ke Malaysia lah, and hopefully can share with the students apa semua tu. Dan sebab tu bila tahun kedua, tahun ketiga, day one kita baru mula open dan sebenarnya memang rasa rugilah. Kenapalah aku dulu tak bercampur. So kat situ bila kita cakap dengan orang, kita tahu macam mana pemikiran orang tu kan. Dan sebenarnya lagi kita boleh nampaklah kelemahan diri kita dan kita boleh belajar dengan mereka semua.
Saya difahamkan Sir Hazwan pandai masak. Memang belajar masak kat sana ke?
Kat sana saya belajar baking, saya tak boleh masak.
Oh, baking, okay.
Jadi kat situ pun satu skill kan. Bila kita duduk sendiri ni macam-macam skill yang kita terpaksa buat lah, sebabkan terpaksa. Sebab betulkan saya lah kalau salah saya kata yang kita manusia ni memang nature dia untuk evolve kan. So bila kita desperate, kita akan boleh buat satu benda tu kan.
Akta punya skill? Baking skill? Cooking skill?
I cook and bake juga. I started baking when I was there. Tak tunjuk je, power sebenarnya tak tunjuk je actually. Apa you nak, kari, kurma, semua boleh. Tapi cuma baking, I didn't bake a lot, just once in a while. Tapi now when I came back home to Malaysia, my brother is a baker kan. So they said forever baked food in my house, so I don't have to bake anything. So I dah lama tak buat lah, tapi if need be, I can cook anytime as long as it's ingredients, I can cook no problem.
Okay, alright. So I tertarik lah yang Sir Hazwan share pasal I don't go friend with Malaysians or people, tapi pilih untuk sendiri lah. Macam for me myself pun suka duduk macam orang kata So I'm the type yang macam individualistic juga. Saya selalu macam seorang, sebab bila kita seorang sebenarnya senang nak pergi mana-mana, tak payah ikut orang. Tapi kita bukanlah tak ada kebolehan untuk berinteraksi dengan orang ramai, kita ada. Tapi peluang untuk kita campur dengan many types of group tu lebih besar. Tak adalah bermaksud kita ni seorang-seorang, kita ni sunyi ke, depress orang, tak ada. Lone Ranger ni kena pandang dari sudut positif kan. Jangan ingat kita ni macam lonely gila. Okay. Alright, so far ada tak students ataupun audience yang nak tanya apa-apa dekat Sir Hazwan and Sir Akta? Bukan senang kita nak kumpulkan ramai-ramai yang tanya pengalaman and also Sir Hazwan dekat overseas. Yes, any students? Ada? You guys ngantuk ke? Makan nasi banyak sangat ni. Tengah hari tadi punya session banyak soalan. Tapi maybe yang petang ni kan macam kita kan HGCSE student tak pernah didedahkan dengan scholarship kan. Jadi diorang tak berapa tahu dan mungkin rasa macam banyak benda baru tahu kot hari ni. Which is very good lah. Sebab saya sebenarnya tertarik bila Hazwan share pasal College Professional MARA. Ramai orang ingat College Professional MARA ni macam benda program yang macam tak ada apa. Sebab yelah free, semua taja. But actually ramai juga students yang daripada KPM tu sebenarnya boleh fly juga kan? Betul tak?
Betul. Saya ada satu batch masa saya dekat tu, ada juga batch yang ambil English as second language lah. Dia orang daripada KPM dan dia fly ke New Zealand lah. So jadi kat sini pun sebenarnya kita kena expand daripada kata for a certain type of program saja macam IB ke macam A-level ke, sebenarnya banyak lagi. Dan sebenarnya sekarang pun skill based punya skill based punya profession itu lagi, bukan kata menjamin, tapi saya nampak sekarang macam if you have the skill for a certain macam contoh kemahiran lah, okay, skill kemahiran tu, that one sebenarnya lagi tinggi peluang you untuk job market lah, sana cerita macam itu. Sebab nampak macam kerja tu macam tak glamour lah, tak macam kata doktor ke lawyer ke apa. Tapi sekarang kalau kita tengok situasi semasa pun, ini just pandangan saya lah, doktor pun ada isu juga kan dengan kontrak dan sebagainya. Itu sebabkan terlalu ramai. So jadi kita kena aware lah. Dia penting aware dengan situasi sekarang, tengok keadaan semasa macam mana, dan mungkin boleh jangan rigidkan lagi pemikiran kata I have to do foundation. Even in fact kalau tak ada, katakanlah result kita tak berapa nak baik pun, boleh pergi ke STPM ataupun kalau ambil agama tu STPM STAM tu. So itu pun sebenarnya dah satu level yang satu benda yang boleh membuka ruang pada kita untuk pergi ke degree lah. So mungkin yang ambil STPM tu mungkinlah tak seglamour kalau pergi matrik ke pergi universiti ke, sebab tanya belajar kat mana, sekolah menengah macam itu. So jadi nampak tak glamour lah, tapi in reality the program itself allows you guys to improve lah sebenarnya. So itulah just nak tambah kat situ.
Okay, alright. So kan kalau kita compare universiti lokal ataupun tempatan, ada je isu-isu semasa, isu-isu sosial. So dekat sana I am very sure because you guys macam mana, the norms and the cultures that you guys facing there is totally different compared to Malaysia, betul tak? Jadi ada soalan daripada salah seorang sister dekat sini, dia PM saya, banyak cabaran belajar di luar negara. Bagaimana untuk istiqamah dalam menjaga adab, akidah, iman dan ibadah sepanjang berada di luar negara. So istiqamah ni macam untuk terus fokus dengan matlamat hidup. Maksudnya we bring our hope, our parents' hope. So benda-benda macam tu, macam mana yang buat you guys kuat dan istiqamah? Please, dua-dua so Hassan.
Kalau for me, sebenarnya the first year when I went to Edinburgh tu, I was actually very depressed because of it was difficult for me to masak, and macam as I told you, I stayed in a flat dengan 11 people and we were all getting drunk on the weekend, and you know it was just very difficult and I was depressed. And when I used to call my mom, or then my mom used to call me on weekends, and then she can sense the depression in my voice too. So she told me to come back for the December punya holiday. So I went in, I think late August. So December punya holiday I came back. And then for me certainly, because when I was doing my A levels at College Yayasan UAM, I was elected to be one of the people in something that we call the Musalla Committee. Dia macam you punya badan lah basically. And so when I was elected to be part of the Musalla Committee tu, I made it a point to solat semua waktu dekat surau. So that's where I developed my habit of solat 5 waktu dekat surau lah. Kalau kat rumah mungkin maghrib isyak je, tapi when I went there, when I was elected as Muscom, I thought to myself that since we already Muscom, we need to show good example. So kita solat 5 waktu. But when I went to Edinburgh, the mosque was not very far from where I lived. It was maybe about 10 minutes walk. Tapi sejuk kan, very cold, and then macam dengan keadaan depressed tu macam, so I didn't go to the mosque at all except on Fridays. And I felt that was a major problem for me because that basically sucked me into depression even further. And then after I came back to Malaysia in December, then I went back again. It was quite a nice experience because the day that I arrived in Edinburgh, it was snowing macam dalam drama Korea tu kan. It's a very nice day. And then I nekat untuk start going to the mosque again. If not all the waktu pun, because dia nak pergi untuk subuh tu dia memang kena iman level malaikat lah, sebab dia punya subuh pukul 3, pukul 4 kan. Tapi kalau ada waktu tu, I tried to make a point to go, and that was a very powerful thing that I did, because it really kind of like helped me to gather my thoughts again and mingle with people. I didn't feel so alone, and I certainly didn't feel so sad and depressed all the time lah. So I think that's the spiritual nature of make sure you have a connection to. Kalau lelaki, I memang daripada sekarang pun sarankan untuk pergilah ke masjid kan, as much as possible all the waktu, and even you are there pun try to make it a point to go. Tapi perempuan, I think cabaran kalau dekat luar negara, certainly in recent years lah, it's becoming more and more difficult, sebab the rise of apa kita kata white supremacy, and perempuan, especially if you're wearing hijab kan. Hijab is it's very visible tau. It's very visible that you're a Muslim woman. Unlike lelaki kan. Lelaki kalau ada janggut pun lambat je orang yang bukan Muslim ada janggut pun kat sana. Tapi if you're wearing a hijab, it clearly shows that you're a Muslim woman. And cabaran untuk perempuan Muslim memang lebih lah dan tak boleh dipahami oleh orang lelaki pun. My friend, she was studying medicine with me and she was quite short, very, very short girl. She wore the hijab. So she said that one day she was walking on the roadside, she was walking on the road pavement, and this white guy just pushed her onto the middle of the road. And nasib baik jalan tu tak ada banyak kereta tau. And she just didn't know what to do because she was quite short. That fellow was quite big. Now other friends juga, when they saw another friend on the bus, they kind of go, oh, they are going to blow the bus up or something like that. So you have these insane people around and they are there all the time. It affects lelaki juga tapi very, very minor lah. Kalau ada pun memang sangat sikit. Perempuan mungkin lebih susah. Tapi the other thing is globally now, wherever you go, kita ada Muslim punya movements. So you should be part of those communities, either generally be part of the community, or more specifically kalau Malaysia punya dia memang akan ada all of these usra-usra kan yang you boleh join. I personally was not a fan of any of these usra because I didn't like the way that they were carrying the usra too. So I made my own usra. And I gathered my own group of friends to join my usra. So I became like the nakib of that usra. And also I joined the community there quite strongly. And I told you I studied Arabic there kan, because there was Arabic classes and I joined the Arabic classes there. So you need to be part of the community lah. So rasa itu yang paling penting sekali, because if you don't have any strong anchor, any support from people who are facing similar problems like you. Sebab kalau kat Western countries rasanya dia punya masjid macam also very friendly dengan wanita. So go and spend your time there. The mosque is a central position. Of course, other things yang memang kamu buat dekat Malaysia, you should continue doing that. Like baca Quran tiap-tiap hari and stuff like that. Most people don't actually terpesong. Yang saya dengar terpesong ni kadang-kadang daripada sekolah yang overly Islamic dekat Malaysia, yang macam nak cakap lelaki dengan perempuan pun kena balik hijab and stuff like that. So some schools practice this kind of nonsense, and then when the students go there, they become like jakun tau, keluar dari hutan. So they become betul-betul semua cabut, and they go to the pubs and clubs and stuff like that. So there are cases like that. And also there are cases of people yang Melayu daripada international school yang kaya-kaya ni, yang memang kat sini pun macam bukan Melayu dah, kat sana lagilah dia punya terserlah dia punya dosa dia kan. I saw one of my friends, Malay girl, dia memang tak pakai tudung. I mean, I was going to the mosque at 4 o'clock in the morning. She was coming back with a Mat Saleh boyfriend. When they were, she was not drunk, but she was basically not properly dressed at all, and she was walking with a boyfriend. So you can go that way as well lah. Tapi yang tu memang daripada kat Malaysia pun tak practice dah sangat pun. Tapi for most Muslimah who are practicing here, when they go there tak ada masalah. They usually kind of like, don't worry that, oh my God, I'm going to the land of kuffar and all of the terrible things there that I will be hanyutkan. You won't be, inshallah, you will be fine, because as long as you do things in moderation and you have an anchor, some kind of support system, either to your Malaysian friends or to the community over there. For me, it was the mosque especially. Even though I didn't talk to anybody a lot in the mosque, but being in the mosque was very kind of like spiritually uplifting and gave me direction. I think that's good enough lah. Aswan, maybe you want to share something?
I think you have touched almost all of the point there. Betul, memang dekat sana tak betul. Memang bila kita luar negara ni, kita sebenarnya dah seorang macam bebas daripada ibu bapa lah cerita kan. Sebab authority figure dekat rumah, of course dekat Malaysia tu our parents akan always tengok kita. Dan bila kita dah pergi ke luar negara tu macam dah bebas. So kita ada option untuk macam saya cakap tadi pasal usrah tu, itu memang biasanya kalau untuk first year student memang akan ditarik untuk masuk usrah ini. Dan the main reason why didn't make connection with, like exclude everybody itu sebabkan pressure pernah masuk usrah tu lah. So kadang-kadang dia the way they handle tu kadang too much. Bila too much kita baru nak sebab kita punya thinking adalah okay, bila kita luar negara, now kita nak explore banyak benda. Okay, of course dengan nak explore tu mesti ada guidance apa semualah. So jadi kita nak explore lah, tapi bila dah ada satu shackle yang macam mesti John Nusrah ni saja. So jadi kasi kita dah ada konflik kat situ kan. So dia menyebabkan depressed dan boleh lead up to the other extreme lah. So dia again same thing yang macam saya cakap, always ada anchor, maksudnya you kena always go back, ingat balik. Ini lebih kepada diri sendiri untuk ingat balik kenapa you ada in the first place. So you are there because you are given the chance untuk sambung belajar. So kena always ingat you belajar tu untuk siapalah. So macam saya, one of the motivation is always my mom. Okay, I want to finish this degree because of my mom lah, senang cerita macam itu. Tapi pada masa sama kita tengok apa-apa untuk belajar benda-benda yang selain daripada nak lead up to the finishing of the degree tu. So kat situ bila kita ada something yang occupy kan our mind, ada benda yang kita nak belajar yang selain daripada akademik tu, menyebabkan kita tak adalah mengambil banyak sangat masa untuk benda-benda yang tak berfaedah kan. So have something lah, maksudnya kat sana of course ada benda yang tak ada kat Malaysia. Contoh macam saya, I've start to spark balik interest in graphic design, in computer, in gaming. So kat situ saya gunakan opportunity tu and also duit sponsor tu lah kan, untuk beli game, beli software. So kat situ memang kalau saya boleh tunjukkan iPad saya dalam tu penuh dengan software music masa berduit tu. Jadi saya gunakan untuk benda-benda macam itulah. Saya tak gunakan, jadi maksudnya saya fokus dekat benda yang saya nak belajar. So itu pentingnya kalau ada tambahan kepada yang tu lah. Besides of course sebagai Muslim kita kena kena be in that in the environment supaya kita tak lari jauh sangatlah, sebab memang dekat luar negara tu sebab banyak orang ramai orang bukan Muslim kan, especially kalau kita pun take part, mesti kita engage dengan non-Muslim kat sana, kita boleh nampak macam saya cakap tadi, kita boleh tahu belajar macam cara dia berfikir. Sometimes kalau kita tak berada dalam satu kelompok yang ada pegangan agama macam kita ada, kita boleh jadi dipengaruhi lah oleh cara pemikiran yang sebenarnya agak tak betul, okay? agak free macam itu. So kita kena ni lah yang penting, in moderation, and also on the way nak keep grounded tu, always occupy yourself with something else yang maksudnya yang macam yang bukan negatif lah, something yang that is very useful for you sebenarnya.
Nak tanya, kalau macam dekat sana macam famous tak counselling and also counsellor embassy ke, macam ada tak yang pergi dekat sana ataupun prefer untuk jumpa kaunselor dekat institutions?
Yang dekat institution biasanya memang dia akan offer lah, terutamanya macam musim-musim nak exam. Jadi dia akan buka macam counseling session, ataupun kalau ada event-event, contoh macam di Victoria University yang pasal shooting dekat Christchurch tu, immediately dia punya macam counseling unit tu ada buka counseling untuk help this Muslim student. So kat situ again always take the opportunity lah kalau kita ada masalah, dan memang ada. Dan untuk di Malaysia lebih kepada sebenarnya community ataupun kita panggil orang-orang yang dah involved dengan macam high commission apa panggil yang duduk dekat kedutaan tu kurang macam itulah, saya pun tak ingat apa nama dia. Besok kalau kita rakyat Malaysia sendiri ada masalah, biasanya kita akan pergi ke sana lah, sebab ke sana ada juga macam dia punya orang yang in charge untuk talk dengan kita, untuk cakap kalau kita ada masalah apa-apa kan. Biasa macam itulah.
Syakta nak tambah?
Tak, basically adalah chaplaincy you can go to the chaplaincy, the chaplain will be there. Chaplain selalunya macam Christian man, tapi dia respect lah your agama. You can seek any advice. And then university pun ada dia punya advisor juga. Dan kalau Edinburgh tu, every student I think akan ada one mentor that you can go and talk to the mentor. Tapi I personally, I think I never had any major issues. I never use any of them, and I think even if I did, they wouldn't be that helpful kot. So macam dia macam mungkin berbeza cara pandang, that your world views are different kan. So maybe like some of my friends who had what problem with depression, they end up seeing a psychiatrist and they got medication for that. Maybe it didn't have to reach that level, and some people memang betul-betul sampai level terpaksa kita kata the scholarship was revoked because they couldn't continue and they couldn't find anybody to talk to. So although opportunities are there, maybe dia susah sikit nak approach lah. And kebanyakan masjid, they're not very well equipped dengan this isu-isu ni. Itu memang problem yang they are grappling with jugalah. Even kita pun kan, kita kat Malaysia pun mana ada orang komiti masjid yang pandai bagi counselling. They basically just tell you that takutlah Allah kalau tak masuk neraka, something like that. So it doesn't help. Tapi there are avenues that you can use. I think most importantly is your own Malaysian community group. You can find somebody to talk to kan. So those things can help.
Alright. Okay, kita ada 2 soalan terakhir, tapi saya akan combinekan lah. Kalau sometimes Hazwan boleh jawab. Salam Kak Najwa, I have a question. With this pandemic, does it decrease our opportunity to study overseas? Okay, so that is one question. So another question, maybe it's quite out of the topic, but may I ask the path for those who don't have the chance to get a scholarship? So macam mana? Satu, ada nak cari peluang adakah berkurang? Lepas ni, satu lagi macam kalau kita tak dapat scholarship, kita boleh pergi lagi tak overseas macam tu?
Tak faham soalan yang kedua tu macam mana? Kalau tak dapat scholarship apa?
Kalau tak dapat scholarship, macam kita ada jalan tak untuk keluar ke overseas? Maksudnya without scholarship, boleh ke?
Ada kalau banyak duit lah. Kalau tak ada duit tu tak ada peluang lain. Dia memang there's no other way, because for majority of Malaysians, you need some kind of financial assistance lah to get and kiranya, tapi janganlah rasa macam if tak keluar luar negara tu kiranya your hidup tak complete. Don't have that mentality in the first place. Kiranya macam you can live very fulfilling lives just being in your own country. The very fact that you have opportunity to study for the education pun is a blessing in itself kan. Betapa ramai orang yang tak ada the opportunity pun. And if you do get to go overseas, then alhamdulillah. If you don't get to go overseas, that's fine. As I mentioned tadi, if you don't get the scholarships because you don't take SPM ke, ataupun even if you do take SPM tak cemerlang ke, you can always do it when you're doing your postgraduate punya courses. That's an opportunity because banyak universiti memang akan sponsor dia punya pencara-pencara untuk sambung belajar. Itu satu. What was the first question tadi ya? In the pandemic ni. Rasanya banyak universiti, banyak yang the one that I know, some of them because of this restriction of flying dan sebagainya, ada yang buat macam hybrid mode lah sekejap. Kiranya mula-mula dia buat online dulu, kiranya tak payah pergi sana lagi. Tapi most of them will require you to go overseas juga to kind of like study dekat tempat dia lah. When the opportunity arises, I think you can apply to the government pun untuk tunjuk surat dan sebagainya that I have to go to that place. And they take that into consideration lah. Cuma I think globally, financially banyak orang, JPA pun sekarang dah very much less scholarship untuk overseas, banyak yang dia sponsor dalam negara sahaja. Okay. And then globally pun I think many governments cannot afford to sponsor their students already because of what has happened in the pandemic kan. So rasanya memang overall scholarship punya opportunities akan jatuh lebih sikit. And you may not be able to fly pun because it all depends kan. You may be stuck there ke ataupun you may be stuck here ke. Susah nak sebut for sure lah, tapi and this coronavirus ni pun bila dia nak reda pun hanya Allah sahaja yang tahu because it's so unpredictable. There seems to be like a light at the end of the tunnel, maybe by next year or something like that, tapi I can't say jugalah kan, it's difficult.
I think as long as you get the scholarship, you get the offer letter, you can go lah. And first of and you need to get jab as well. Kena vaccinated tu. Azwan nak tambah apa-apa?
Tak ada. Samalah. Memang untuk pandemik ni memang kurang sikit. Dan kalau tengok pun macam yang program YTD itu tadi tu, dia dah ada option. Kalau dulu dia program khas untuk program ke luar negara, tapi sekarang dia dah ada option untuk ada banyak program jugalah untuk program dalam negara ni. So memang akan affect jugalah.
Ada one question here yang what about countries yang free tuition like Germany? Yes, Germany does have free tuition. The tuition fee is free, but you still need somebody to sponsor you for the living cost kan? Living cost dia mahal because euro is like I think one euro is about RM5. So you need somebody to sponsor you for the living cost juga, and that will be like at least puluh ribu ringgit Malaysia jugalah kalau tak sampai ratus ribu ringgit Malaysia kan. So you still need somebody to kind of like if your parents are very well off, then that will be an option lah to get a place at Germany because memang tuition fee dia free. Just kiranya need to focus on the living expenses lah. Tapi kiranya living expenses pun quite substantive juga actually.
Maybe you guys can share the amount of JPA scholarship and also MARA scholarship. Berapa ratus ribu government sponsor untuk go for UK and also New Zealand?
For UK dia bergantung lah pada first of all depending on the cost, and then it depends on the city that you go. Medicine is of course the most expensive of all the courses because it's 5 years, and it's also dia punya clinical year dia tahun ketiga 4, 5 for each year is £33,000. So when I went that time, it was £1 was RM6. So that's like 150, close to 200,000 ringgit. And they don't give you the tuition fee. Tuition fee memang dia akan direct kepada university lah. They only give you living expenses sahaja. So my time the living expenses was £800 per month. £800 tu memang banyak lah. Ada orang yang dia boleh spend sampai jadi miskin tu memang rasa kena gantung orang ni. Tapi basically £800 tu memang is a lot of money because the rent is about £400. You have about £400 lagi left. So you actually can save a lot of money. And then students are allowed to work as well. So like my friend, some of them didn't come back over the summer. Dia jadi kerja housekeeping dekat one of the chain of motels kat sana tu. So every month dia earn £800. By the time 3 months summer cuti, dia dapat £2,400. £2,400 is about RM10,000 really or more than that kan. So macam banyaklah dia berjaya untuk save. Rasanya scholarship money tu kalau dapat scholarship tu memang cukup, tapi is very expensive. That is why sekarang JPA pun dah tak hantar banyak sangat ke UK and US because dia memang mahal and dia jadi brain drain kalau ramai a lot of these people don't want to come back. For variety of reasons lah. I don't want to blame anybody not coming back as pengkhianat and stuff like that. I think it's not fair juga to call them pengkhianat. Dia ada banyak sebab juga kalau mereka tak balik. Sebab apa? Tapi dia memang mahal lah. It's very costly. MARA should be the same kan Hazwan? I think MARA also buat sama juga kan? £800. I don't know kalau New Zealand mungkin sikit lagi ke?
New Zealand dollar lah. Dia again dia bergantung kepada currency lah. So tapi dia total tu again bergantung kepada courses, dan kalau ringgit Malaysia tu saya boleh katakan dia tak lari untuk sciences lah, especially tak kurang daripada RM600,000 lah. So bayangkan kalau tak baca betul-betul, they have to pay RM600,000 macam mana tu kan. So itulah amount yang kita boleh katalah. Again, tuition fee memang dibayarkan dan living expenses lah dekat sana tu.
Okay, almost 200k. So basically kalau you guys tak dapat scholarship, tapi kalau family mampu untuk hantar, so kena sediakanlah few amount yang macam Saatan also Azlan sebut. So kalau nak sentuh pasal tudung terbang, iman terbang dekat overseas ni, actually benda tu tak berlaku di luar negara sahaja. Kalau nak cakap pun dekat Malaysia pun jadi juga. So we have the sugar baby, sugar daddy culture here too. Jadi macam akak sendiri nak share satu kisah. My friend dia buat PhD dekat US. So dia pergi dengan keadaan bertudung and tiba-tiba dekat Facebook dia upload gambar yang tak bertudung. But I didn't ask anything lah sebab we were not close pun. Kita kenal melalui volunteer work je lah. 2014 dulu. And then I believe sebab US ni macam saya cakap, dekat UK pun dia punya Islamophobia tu pun ada, kat US lebih teruk. Jadi kalau kita nampak rakan-rakan yang tiba-tiba free hair tak semena-mena tu, kita doakan je lah yang terbaik untuk dia sebab kita tak tahu apa ujian dia dekat sana. Okay, so I think rasanya tu je kot soalan daripada students. I think ni pun dah banyak sebenarnya. Kita dah go deeper dah sampai kita tanya culture hidup kat sana macam mana. So I would like to thank you to Sir Akhtar, Sir Hazwan for spending your weekend and sharing your knowledge and everything what you guys know about scholarship, about culture kat sana. Thank you so much. I would like to thank you Ustaz Qayyum juga untuk very good effort. Ustaz Qayyum sangat-sangat membantu Ustaz, tolong set up this Zoom meeting dari rumah dengan keadaan anak yang ramai, dan akan nak minta berterima kasih juga dekat salah seorang guru, Mara Betong. She is my friend, dia ada attend kat sini, dan guru pengetua sekolah Al-Amin, Tropicana Al-Amin. Thank you so much for the students yang attend. Kalau ada apa-apa yang soalan, kalau you guys malu nak tanya kat sini, boleh PM akak juga. So later on kita akan hantar soalan-soalan tu dekat Sir Akhtar and to Sir Hazwan kalau ada. Alright, okay, with that insyaAllah akak rasa itu sahaja, and akan nak jemput Mu'im untuk recite Tasbih Kafarat and also Surah Al-As. To wrap up our session.
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Subhanakallahumma wa bihamdika asyhadu an la ilaha illa anta astaghfiruka wa atubu ilaik. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Wal 'asr. Innal insana lafi khusr illa alladhina amanu wa 'amilus solihati wa tawassaw bil haqq wa tawassaw bis sabr. Assalamualaikum.
Waalaikumsalam. Thank you so much.
Thank you sir. Thank you Kak.
Alright, thank you.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, guys. Assalamualaikum.
Assalamualaikum.
Thank you.